Attorney Matibag, in your application letter, you mentioned that in your previous positions, you have introduced innovations and improvements to better serve the public. Should you be appointed as ombudsman, what innovations do you intend to introduce to the office?
Thank you, Your Honor. The first innovation that we'll introduce will be the digitalization of the submission of the SALN of every government officials. Not only to digitalize it, but to come out with the algorithm to design real-time submission of the government employees of the increase in their assets and also face-to-face with other agencies like the Bureau, like the Bureau of Internal Revenue, also the Land Registry of Deeds, the LTO, so that we will know what are the assets being submitted and not submitted to the SALN. And also make the submission only the full SALN for those top 5%. And those who have a lower ranking will not be allowed to submit the full SALN, but also submit it digitally.
Former Ombudsman Martires restricted public access to the SALNs of government officials, although I think partly you have addressed that. But for the record, would you continue to adhere to this policy and why?
First of all, with all due respect to the former ombudsman, I will allow an access to the SALN. However, I will limit it to those who are needed to be known, like the net assets, the amount, the assets, but probably not to disclose personal information like the address, name of the children, so that to protect the one who is submitted the SALN. And in relation to this, the digitalization, the public can access it, and even the media can access it with strict compliance to the guidelines that will be set forth by the Office of the Ombudsman. The reason for this is we need to gain the public trust and respect of the public to the government agencies. And in doing so, will be a cornerstone of the Office of the Ombudsman.
Thank you. That was my final question. I wish you good luck, Attorney Matibag. Thank you, Attorney.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Attorney Mejia. Our next interviewer is the Honorable Justice Erlinda Pinera Uy.
Thank you, Attorney Cuevas. Good afternoon, Attorney Matibag.
Afternoon, Your Honor.
In your PDS, I noticed that your spouse is currently the Congresswoman in San Pedro, Laguna, and you have many relatives in government. If appointed ombudsman, how would you ensure that you are beyond the influence of anyone and that you would maintain impartiality regardless of personalities involved?
Thank you, Your Honor. Actually, yes, ma'am, my wife is a second termer in the House of Representatives. And alam po ninyo, bago po ako nag-apply na dito sa ombudsman, ang unang-una ko pong kinausap ay ang aking may bahay. For her to understand that being an ombudsman, my life will change, my personal dealings will change, even to my friends. And alam nyo po, ang nasa unahan dapat dito is the real love for the country, na dapat ang nauuna rito is yung integrity and accountability. So, siguro po ang aking gagawin dyan, if there's a possible conflict of interest, I will be immediately open it to the public. And if it's needed for me to recuse myself, Your Honor, I will not hesitate to recuse it, my position, Your Honor. Thank you po.
How have your professional experiences molded you for the position of ombudsman?
Thank you, Your Honor. Let me share my experience when I was the president of the National Transmission Corporation. That was my appointment from 2017 until the early part of 2022, when my position is to fight the control of a Chinese company over our transmission assets, because I believe that the transmission asset is a vital installation. And if it should not be controlled by any foreign entity, considering that our sovereignty is very important. I was criticized. I was actually even, there are black propaganda against me, but I never waver my desire to go against the position of the concessionaire, that company controlled by a Chinese national be in our transmission assets, Your Honor. And I appeared in congressional hearings and JCEC hearings to defend my position. And we were able to achieve victory on this matter when there was an arbitration in Singapore, and the assets owned by the National Transmission Corporation was all titled under the names of the National Transmission Corporation, and declared that the action of NGCP is against the concession agreement and the law which created the concession, Your Honor.
I also noticed in your PDS that you headed the Interagency Task Force on Zero Hunger. Can you share what is this task force about?
Yes, ma'am. Nung ako po ay natapos maglingkod bilang Transco President, I was appointed as Cabinet Secretary po for a short stint also.
Of what department?
Cabinet Secretary po, yung CABSEC po na position.
Okay.
Opo,
Yes.
used to be held by Honorable Carlo Nograles. So I held it for 5 months. And one of the tasks is to, yung sa hunger nga po. So what we did is in coordination with other agencies like the SWD and other NGOs, we promoted the campaign to end the hunger po. That is, we conducted seminars and also we visited areas that needed to be addressed yung pong hunger natin sa Pilipinas po.
Is this task force still in existence?
Unfortunately, the office of the Cabinet Secretary was abolished po by the present administration, and I don't know if it has been directed to other agency, Your Honor.
How do you stay abreast with current ethical standards as well as jurisprudential concepts of ombudsman cases?
Well, as part of being a lawyer, we know that we are all attend the MCLE program. But apart from that, it's my habit to regularly read recent rulings and jurisprudence that will probably help me in my practice on a day-to-day basis, Your Honor.
And have you handled cases before the Ombudsman or the Sandigan Bayan?
I'm sorry, ma'am.
Have you handled cases before the Ombudsman or the Sandigan Bayan?
Yeah, not yet, Your Honor.
How will you address the issue of inordinate delay in resolving Ombudsman cases?
Well, it's inordinate. In order to address the inordinate delay, we may probably look into the recent pronouncement of the Supreme Court, the Kagan case, so that we will be guided by that. So, in order to do that, there is one policy now being done by the Office of the Secretary of Justice, which is to upgrade the standard of conviction by filing cases that are you will surely get the conviction. So that's one. But more importantly is for them to for the Office of the Ombudsman to first address in the first 100 days to make an audit of all the cases pending and check which cases should be dismissed and which cases should be continue to be prosecuted in relation to the policy being done by the Office of the Secretary of Justice. And also, the digitalization not only on the SALN but also on the filing of cases so that we can regularly monitor the flow of the cases, and also to create task force in order to make an audit and study of all the cases that should be resolved immediately, Your Honor.
How about what should be the role of the Ombudsman in ensuring compliance with procurement laws and preventing ghost projects or anomalous transactions?
Yeah, tamang-tama po siguro ngayong panahon na to that we address that issue. So probably we can address it. The key thing, the key is probably the transparency. We make it the public known what is really happening and for them to participate. So the Office of the Ombudsman have a vast power, and one of this is to make public what they've been doing. Ang suggestion ko po dito is to make all the bidding participated by the Office of the Ombudsman and order the procuring entity to come out with an online bidding process that is real-time broadcast to the Office of the Ombudsman and also broadcast at the same time to the public that they can see what's happening during the bidding proceedings, Your Honor.
And my last question, please convince us that you are the best candidate for the position of ombudsman.
Ang dahilan ko po, kaya po ako nag-apply ng ombudsman, I held so many positions already, private and public. And I've been noticing what's really happening dito po sa bayan natin. It apparent that people are losing trust and confidence to the agencies of the government. And I think yung isa pong unang-unang titingnan kung bakit kailangan na ang ombudsman dapat yung pagmamahal mo sa bayan mas mataas doon sa pagmamahal mo sa sarili. That should be the standard. Meaning that you will not submit to compromises, but your yardstick will always be what is right and what is just. And ang ombudsman mandated po ng Constitution to protect the people. Kung makita po natin ngayon, the rise of the tulpos, because ordinary people cannot go to the agencies that's supposed to protect the ordinary people. The ombudsman should be supposed to be the watchdog and should be close to the people. Wala po tayong nakikitang ganon. And I'm willing to offer my experience, both politically, both in the administration of government and privately, to do what I can do for the country so that we can give the best legacy to our people. And which is, that legacy is to give back the trust and confidence of the people to the agencies of the government so that we can really start to progress at this point, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor.
So like I said, that was my last question. Good luck to you, Attorney Matibag.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Justice Uy. Our next interviewer is the Honorable Congresswoman Gerville Luistro.
Good afternoon, Attorney Matibag.
Afternoon, Your Honor.
You are advocating for the decentralization of the Ombudsman. You even pronounced or indicated in your documents the creation of additional regional offices. First question, is it your intention as well to put up provincial offices?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, it's my desire that every office, if it's possible, to put an ombudsman on that office. Because my idea is to deter those people who think that they will think twice before doing something wrong. Because to me, my point of view is deterrence is one big key so that corruption will not happen.
Is it your intention that if there is an erring local official, instead of filing the complaint to the Ombudsman Central Office, we will be filing it in the provincial office of the Ombudsman?
That can be adapted, Your Honor. And also, I've been mentioning digitalization. I will also like to introduce the process of filing through a digitalization. In fact, I was so happy when I see the Sumbong sa Pangulo website because I'm also proposing Sumbungan ng Bayan wherein the people can, using their telephone through SMS or their computer, make a complaint. Because under the Ombudsman law, any form of complaint can be investigated and prosecuted by the Office of the Ombudsman, Your Honor.
I wish to go first to the regional and the provincial office. If we adopt this system, Attorney Matibag, are you not apprehensive that the cases might be manipulated considering the network of influence of the local officials?
We will, in doing so, we will arm our local ombudsman with all the help that they need. That's why I'm also proposing a multidiscipline approach in prosecuting and investigating cases. Because right now, what we do, what the ombudsman is doing is table investigation and mostly based on legal. But we can see the problem right now. Like, for example, what's happening in the flood control scam. I think lawyers cannot identify how much concrete or how much iron or how deep should be the sheet pile that will be put. So we will arm them with the support and also a real-time, by digitalization, they can also, the filing will also be viewed by the central office of the Ombudsman. It will be monitored very closely, Your Honor.
I see. That is with respect to the portal and the online system of receiving the complaints, no? You call it real-time monitoring system. In addition to that, we used to have this resident ombudsman system, which was adopted in the past in the Office of the Ombudsman. And I'm inclined to believe this is aligned with your decentralization intentions about the services of the Ombudsman. However, in the past, this resident ombudsman came from the government agency, which is supposed to be monitored by the Office of the Ombudsman. If you will be given the chance to be appointed as the next ombudsman, would you want the resident ombudsman to be organic, meaning he will come from the ombudsman itself, or non-organic, he will come from the government agency to be watched over?
Thank you, Your Honor. I prefer to have it with the reporting directly to the Office of the Ombudsman, because the mere independence of the Ombudsman is the bastion of integrity in the service of the Ombudsman. So, mas maganda po siguro na yung ating mga ombudsman na yan, yung relationship nila doon sa agency kanilang babantayan, hindi po nanggagaling sa kanilang poder, kundi nanggagaling mismo sa central office po ng ombudsman po.
You also spoke about the need for the ombudsman to take a more proactive role in the investigation instead of simply reacting to the complaints. The questions are, is it your intention to institutionalize? Number one is the lifestyle check. Number two is the audit partnership. And number three is the motu proprio investigation.
Yung sinasabi nga ko po rito doon sa gusto ko na mas magiging mas proactive rather than reactive. Because I think my point of view is we've been doing it for 35 years. We're doing a reactive investigation. We've been doing table investigation. We're just waiting for somebody to file a case, then investigate. And I mentioned earlier, the ombudsman should be feared by the people who want to do a wrongdoing. Dapat po may deterrence. So that is right. We want to institutionalize it. Yung lifestyle check is very important. So kasama na po ron karugtong na yung sa SALN, where is will be the first basis of our lifestyle check. Tapos yung pong motu proprio investigation, if there is something reported na kailangan imbestigahan, kailangan po imbestigahan. Dahil sabi po sa Ombudsman Law, any form, kahit saan po nakasulat yung reklamo, kailangan po imbestigahan, kailangan po bantayan. And more than that, probably the Ombudsman can exercise yung pong magbigay sila ng opinion. Kung mali yung opinion, come out with the opinion so that the agency that doing that or the head of agency that intends to do what is wrong can already be corrected without going through the legal process po.
Yes, another thing is about the COA. Under the current practice, the COA is transmitting their decision to the Ombudsman. But that is really unclear whether this decision of the COA shall be considered or taken up for PI or for case build-up. If you will have the chance to lead this office, Attorney Matibag, how would you appreciate the weight as evidence of COA decision?
Good. Thank you again, ma'am. I consider COA as expert in their field, and Ombudsman, independent by it seems, we need help of other agencies who will fight corruption. So I will probably renew an agreement with COA and come out with a framework of how to deal with their findings. However, if the findings is really clear that there was a corruption issue on what they reported, then I will take it as it is, and motu proprio, we can probably file a case based on that. But more than that, as I mentioned, there should be an agreement between parties who fight corruption, like COA, like the Civil Service Commission. I recall that in 2004, there was an agreement among the three agencies to come out with a framework to fight corruption that was done in Batangas, in Solana, which became a Solana agreement, but there was no follow-up already. So if fortunately I'll be elected as ombudsman through the help of the JBC, of course, I will make a follow-up in that. and make a framework not only with COA, with all other agencies that in charge with enforcement and prosecution of illegal actions by the government officials, Your Honor.
Similar to that COA decision is the committee report of the Congress, and I am sure you witness your spouse taking part in various inquiries in aid of legislation will likewise come up with a report based on the 2022 rules ng Ombudsman. The committee report of the Congress should be subjected to case build-up, but the rule has been changed in 2025. Under the 2025 rules, the committee report shall be automatically docketed and shall be subjected to an outright preliminary investigation. From a perspective of the possible next Ombudsman of the Philippines, would you want the committee report to go through the case build-up first, or you will appreciate that as significant for preliminary investigation already?
Well, Ma'am, it will depend on the weight of evidence because, of course, when we prosecute the case with the Sandigan Bayan or any other court, we will go back to the evidence that will be presented. So we will look into it and check, especially if it's a high-profile case. If it passed the standard of a probable cause, then we will immediately prosecute on the matter, especially if it's a high-profile case, as I mentioned, Your Honor.
Your answer actually leads me to my next question, and perhaps the last. During the time of Secretary Boying Remulla, he issued circular number 15 and number 28. This elevated the amount of evidence necessary for preliminary investigation, that is from probable cause to reasonable certainty of conviction standard. Considering that the Ombudsman is tasked as well to conduct a preliminary investigation, would you advocate for the adoption of the increased amount of evidence as provided in the two circulars of the DOJ?
Ma'am, I've seen that circular. Probably, with all due respect to the good secretary, I will apply a hybrid one. Because when I look at the circular, it's only applicable to cases belonging to the municipal trial court. So if the cases filed before the Ombudsman is like cases like below the salary grade of 27 or 26, and the amount of the property involved is at 1 million, probably we increase the amount of evidence. But if it's a high-profile case, we go to probable cause, Your Honor, because we need to prosecute. As I said, the people are watching. We need to gain the trust and respect of the people once more for the institution of the government, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor.
For my last question, Attorney Matibag, of course, all the aspirants for this office are qualified. As a matter of fact, the task of the JBC is to select the best qualified. You're given the chance now to promote yourself. Anong meron ka na wala yung ibang aspirants?
Well, I'm sure all of us here and all the aspirants, just like me, mahal natin yung bansa natin, and that should be the number one basis. Another probably is the legal, somehow not legal expertise, but the knowledge of the law to apply and use it properly. And to prosecute those should be prosecuted, and protect those should be protected. And of course, to me, is humility as well, because we need people to be closer to the people, to the Ombudsman. If you will look at the Constitution, ang sabi po talaga sa Ombudsman, tanod bayan yan eh. Ibig sabihin, people should be close to you, they can come to you. I mentioned earlier the success of the Tulpos because of failure of our constitutionally mandated agencies that should protect the people. Wala, they're looking for instant justice. Yung akin po sigurong track record nung ako'y nanggaling sa iba-ibang ahensya will be my greatest achievement, or probably yung aking bibitbitin dyan sa Ombudsman. I've been tested several times, especially in the National Transmission Corporation where I used to edit. We did not succumb to political pressure and also even put myself in personal risk. Pero pinanindigan po natin yung posisyon natin. that the sovereignty of the Filipino is more important than anything else, Your Honor. That's it.
Thank you, Attorney Matibag, and good luck on your application.
Thank you, Congresswoman Luistro. Our next interviewer is the Honorable Attorney Nesauro H. Firme.
Thank you, Attorney Marife. Good afternoon, Attorney. Okay. So I have two sets of questions. One comes from the good senator, Senator Alan Cayetano. So he has only one question, and he would like to know your stand on the lifestyle check. So as you know, recently it has been in the news. So what is your stand on that?
Thank you, Your Honor. I agree with the lifestyle check. It can also come as a form of deterrence because if people know that you're being watched and your lifestyle is being checked, mas nag-iingat po yung tao. At pangalawa, if there's something that people will be hiding and the ombudsman will exercise the power of lifestyle check, then we can probably not only deter but also prevent and apprehend those people that should be responsible in doing corruption in the government, Your Honor.
Okay, so I'll ask my set of questions. Some of them have been covered by my colleagues, no? Especially my number one question. Probably I'll go to the second one. So, despite all the accomplishments in your life, why do you still want to become the ombudsman?
Sabi ko nga po, I've been served in so many capacity in private and public, but this time I've noticed what's happening to our country, and probably I can give my contribution and offer my services to help the government, to help our people to regain the trust and confidence of the people in the instrumentalities of the government. Matagal na rin po tayong abogado, and the reason why we enter the practice of law is to protect the people who need the protection. And of course, the more important reason is yung sinasabi ko nga po kanina na we love our country, lahat naman po tayo rito. But probably, if I became the ombudsman, I can be the beacon of that desire para mabuhay po ulit sa maraming Pilipino yung desire natin na mahalin yung bansa po natin.
I've noticed, sifting through your records, attorney, no? So you have been appointed by the president, past president, no, in different capacities. No? And I also noticed that you were part of the PDP Laban as a SecGen. So my question is, how apolitical are you?
Well, I participated in so many elections, and I was the Secretary General of PDP Laban. Actually, during the time of the last administration, I was practically the one running the party as being the Secretary General. I'm also the one speaking in behalf of the party. But I know very well that the position of the ombudsman should be apolitical and should not succumb to political pressure. And my answer probably to address political pressure is transparency, because we all know that pressure thrives on secrecy. But if you're very transparent and you always go back to what is right and what is you're accountable and the integrity, then no matter how much political pressure or personal pressure will be given to you, then you will do fine, Your Honor.
In connection with that, attorney, no, one of the qualities also of a good ombudsman would be independence, possession of independence. So can you tell us an instance wherein you displayed your independence, no? Whether as the former general manager of the MIA, diba? Or as a SecGen of the PDP Laban, or as the CABSEC then, or probably the president of the Transco.
Let me cite the example when I was the Secretary General of PDP Laban. I was a Secretary General of PDP Laban until October 2023. If we recall that during that time, that started the controversy between the Dutertes and the Romualdez and the Marcoses. But prior to that, because I'm also writing an article in Daily Tribune, and I wrote an article about the confidential funds. Despite the prodding of my party mates not to write something offensive to the Vice President, I still publish my article, which is I'm said personally and legally against confidential funds being given to civil agencies like the Office of the Vice President and the DepEd. So I wrote that article, and because of that, I was told to retract it or somehow make an public statement that that is not directed to the Vice President. But how can I do that? She's the only Vice President at that time. So what I did is to resign from the party and be an independent so that I can also exercise my writing in the Daily Tribune regularly on issues that will affect anyone. So I think that's one of the time that I displayed my independence despite being accused that I'm bata daw ako ni Secretary ganito, ni ganyan. But when it comes to principle and position, I will not submit to any personal prodding from anyone, Your Honor.
Another character of a good ombudsman would be integrity. So you've been in several government offices in the past. So were there occasions where your integrity was tested or put to test? And how did you navigate through that?
When I was the president of Transco, there are a lot of, I don't know if I can mention it because, but just to say, there's a
You
lot
can
of,
omit names, attorney, if you want
I will
to.
not mention him, but there's a lot of things that being offered, even ordinary invitation for me to dine with them or in the guise of having a meeting. So what I will usually do when they're inviting me that way, I will bring the entire Mancom to attend that meeting so that I will be transparent, so that my people will know that I'm not doing anything wrong. And I've just also to place both Transco and the Manila International Airport in a standard under the ISO, so that the process will be there. Even if I leave the agencies, the process will remain, and my successors will somehow follow what I've done in those agencies, Your Honor.
So at present, attorney, you're living a private life. Yes. And if appointed as the ombudsman, do you foresee any significant change in your life or lifestyle? And how do you manage, or how do you want to cope, or how will you be able to cope with that?
Of course, Your Honor, definitely there will be a big change. Sabi ko nga po, ang unang-una kong kinausap bago ako nag-apply yung asawa ko. Dahil sabi ko, it will really change even the way we will discuss things, because there are things that I cannot discuss with her, and at the same level that she cannot discuss with me. So I'm preparing myself. Siguro po yung hindi ko lang pwedeng baguhin with playing with my kids, it will be my stress reliever. But ang akin pong moral compass lang dito is the integrity, accountability, and transparency. And on top of it all is the love for our country, that we need to regain the trust and confidence of the people to the institution of our government, Your Honor.
So you're ready also to have bodyguards with you?
Yun lang po yung kasi minsan ako lang po nagmamaneho mag-isa, Your Honor, pero if what it takes to secure us is probably po, hindi naman siguro dapat ganun karami. Kasi po, Your Honor, kung gagawan ka naman ng masama, kung 10 yung bodyguard mo, baka yung gagawa sa'yo ng masama, 20 naman po yung kukunin. So, just leave everything to God siguro. Magdasal po tayo palagi. And if you're not doing anything wrong, kung may gumawa man sa'yo ng masama, at least, you know na wala kang ginawang masama. Mabuti na po yung may magalit sa atin na tama yung ginagawa natin kaysa nagagalit na mali yung ginagawa natin po.
So, well, you've been into politics and public service before. So how much value do you give to public perception?
For me, the perception is very important, lalo na po dito sa Ombudsman. If you will notice, I submit in my action plan yung pong Corruption Perception Index na minimeasure po ng international organization, wherein we are only scoring 33 out of 100 and we are ranked 114 out of 180. So importante po yung perception, especially for the people, for the investors who want to invest. Just like what happened po ngayon because of this flood scam issue na to. I'm reading at the the news, dun po sa business news, we've already lost $1.7 billion na investment in the span of 2 to 3 weeks because of that. And of course, yung public trust po, paulit-ulit ko po kaninang sinasabi na yung public trust and respect ng tao should be important, because if there is no respect or the perception of the public to the office of the ombudsman is bad, kahit po maganda at tama yung gagawin, palagay ko po, we will not succeed. Ombudsman, independent may it seems, need the support of the public, need the trust of the public and all the other institutions of the government and even the NGOs po.
So how about public criticisms? I know that, well, in public service, you do good and you still get public criticisms. How do you handle that?
Well, just recently, I experienced that. And actually, I was surprised when my application for ombudsman became public. Marami po locally sa amin because I'm married to a politician. But sometimes I shrug it off. But there are things that you should answer also, because if you will just allow it to happen, even if it's garbage being feeded to the people, pagka hindi po sinagot, di paniniwalaan. But at the end of the day, you go back to the evidence. You confront them with evidence, the best evidence that you can confront them. And after that, probably I'll just keep quiet and let the people be the judge on your character, Your Honor.
Okay, let us assume, Attorney, that you are already the ombudsman. And it's 2029. And obviously, by 2029, we have a new president, right? No, ibig sabihin, tumawid ka na to the next administration. So I have 5 things here in my mind that I want you to rank. One being the most significant, no, as far as you are concerned. The number 5 would be the least significant. Not necessarily insignificant, but the least significant among the 5. No? Number 1 in my mind would be the president that appointed you to become the next ombudsman. The second would be the new president, the president by 2029. Number 3 would be the public. That would include also yung public perception. Number 4 would be the safety of your family. And number 5 would be yung personal goal, yung mission mo to help the country.
Okay lang po ba, Your Honor, kung ang ranking lang natin sa public and all the other will be equal? Because as I was saying, yung pong ombudsman, kaya nga tinawag na ombudsman, it's to serve the public. Yung po ang dapat nating bantayan. Siguro po, yung nag-appoint sa ating presidente at saka yung bagong presidente, pantay lang po siguro yun. Yung sa family po, it is important to me kasi yung mga anak ko maliliit pa po at mga bata. I'm sorry, Your Honor, yung isa po is the
Personal goal mo.
yung personal goal ko po, kahit sa dulo na lang po yun, because alam nyo po, I came from a humble family and I've already traveled far compared to where I came from. And sa akin po, yung personal goal ko, okay na po ako talaga, honestly, with all due respect po. Pero kaya kahit huli na po yun, or kapantay na po dong sa presidente at sa vice president, sa next president and the president. Because ang sa akin po, the yardstick is, even my wife, if she will be confronted with cases in the office of the ombudsman, the same yardstick that I will apply to anyone who will be facing the cases in the office of the ombudsman, Your Honor. Thank you po.
Okay. Of course, I want to understand the situation dito sa Pilipinas na there would be several public officials who would volunteer, no, to help you to get this post. No? So they were instrumental, no, sa appointment mo. You are now the new ombudsman. It happens that cases have been lodged against them, no, before the ombudsman. Would you file charges against these public officials who were instrumental in you getting this ombudsman post?
Your Honor, if the evidence will point to that direction, Your Honor, definitely we have to file it. Because if other people, politicians or personalities would like to help me doing things, even I don't know, with or without my knowledge, then they know very well that the office of the ombudsman should be independent, as it seems, Your Honor. So if the evidence there is saying that a case should be filed, then we should file cases, Your Honor.
Last question, attorney. No? Now, as the ombudsman, what significant development in your life will make you decide to quit the ombudsman post, or you will not? Other words, you will not finish this 7-year term.
Your Honor, when I applied, I intend to finish the 7-year term because my goal is to increase the corruption perception index by at least 1% every year, so that will be at 40. That will be the first time that we will reach 40 in the corruption perception index. And also the conviction rate, I want to increase it from 50% to 80%. The highest that we had is during the time of then Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales, which is at 76, I guess. So parang I don't see any reason po to leave it. I want to stay for 7 years to complete my plan to deter, to protect, and to educate. Because I don't want to leave the office of the Ombudsman without educating our young people. What is the real reason for our poverty is it's connected with corruption, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Attorney Melvin, and good luck.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Attorney Firme. Our last interviewers, the Honorable Justice Jose Catral Mendoza.
Thank you very much, Attorney Marve. Good afternoon, Attorney Matibag.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Most subjects I want to cover were already covered by your answers. I just want you to explain. I have read your position paper. You wrote that we have failed to fight corruption because we have adopted the wrong approach. And this is the legal approach. Can you explain this? Can you elaborate on this?
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. If we look at other best practices of other jurisdiction, like Hong Kong, like Malaysia, and Singapore, what they did is a more proactive fight against corruption, not only waiting for cases to be filed, but what they did is to investigate and prosecute. They deter. There is a deterrence that they know that the anti-corruption campaign, if there are corruption issues, they will definitely prosecute. So, in addition to this, if chosen to be the next ombudsman, I want to engage other discipline to help fight corruption. As I mentioned earlier, probably we can recruit engineers, architects, forensic experts, financial experts, IT experts. So a multidiscipline approach, because what been doing before during the 35 years is mostly prosecution. We are represented by mostly lawyers in the office of the ombudsman. There are now no other discipline. And to fight corruption, which is being done, again, I will cite the example of the flood control scam. Lawyers has no enough knowledge on the engineering or the design of any flood control or any bridge being done by the Department of Public Works and Highways. So I will try to come out with a multi-discipline approach to a complex problem of corruption, Your Honor.
So you do not want your or the agency to resort only to table investigations.
Yes, Your Honor. Kailangan po siguro may mga actual investigation, kagaya po nung ginawa ng ating Pangulo na yung sinasabing ghost project, pupuntahan talaga,
Yes.
titingnan kung meron po talaga doon. Because if we will only rely on the documents submitted, medyo magagaling na rin pong gumawa ng dokumento yung gumagawa ng mga masasama sa ating pong gobyerno. So, meron po talagang actual, a more proactive approach po, Your Honor.
Presently, it is not being done.
To my knowledge, ang nangyayari po, if there's a cases filed, titingnan po yung mga ebidensyang inilatag, magpapatawag po ng preliminary hearings, but yung pong actual na mga pangyayari na dapat ay puntahan ay hindi po nagagawa.
You want the investigators to conduct field investigations.
Well, field investigation po na
Oh,
ginagawa.
kasi may field investigation nga, but they do not go to the field. Is that what you want to...
Yeah, dapat po yung
Convey.
actual talaga and dun sa mismong lugar kung saan nangyayari po at allegation ay ating pong puntahan.
And you want to improve the corruption perception index of the Philippines.
Po, sana po ang target ko for every year you increase at least by 1 point para by the end of 7 years po nasa 40 points po tayo out of 100 po.
Okay. What is the distinction between endemic corruption and perceptible endemic corruption and ano ba ito? Sana wala. And prevalent corruption. Do you know the difference? You use endemic corruption. How do you distinguish it from prevalent corruption? There is a distinction.
Well, when I use that word, I'm trying to describe in a different language, Your Honor, pero to me, prevalent and endemic, parang yung prevalent is regularly happening. Endemic, parang wala na pong wala nang lunas, wala na pong magagawa.
Sabi mo, meron ka pa rin magagawa. So it's not endemic.
Well, I've subscribed to that, pero I'm just trying to use a metaphor to describe the state of our corruption po in our country, Your Honor.
You have covered everything. I just want to cover one thing. You remember the program before, the ombudsman having a MOA with an agency. They call it a resident ombudsman, and it was discontinued. Do you know why it was discontinued?
Your Honor, yes, Your Honor. To my knowledge, that's the point being raised by Honorable Luis Tro, that the resident ombudsman, being familiar with the agency that they are being assigned, instead of guarding the coppers and the agency protecting the people, it became somehow in cahoots with the people who wants to do the corruption. So probably we can also do that again. But as I mentioned earlier, somebody who's organic and reporting directly to the central office of the ombudsman, not coming from the ranks of those who are being guarded, Your Honor.
I heard that earlier. Yun nga mahirap yung familiarization. Pero kahit na directly from the office of the ombudsman, like the COA, meron ding resident COA. Sabi nga ni Secretary Singson, good time lang yan. But anyway, pag nandun ka na, you study it. So thank you very much, Attorney Matib.
Thank you,
That
Your
will
Honor.
be all.
My pleasure po.
Thank you.
Thank you, Justice Mendoza, and thank you, Attorney Melvin Matibag. Good luck.
Thank you, Your Honors.